on this episode of the Launchpad podcast.
Since for us to fully communicate efficaciously with like these machine elves, I do believe we'll have to employ somebody like, you know, like Donald Trump or something like that to play that real 5D chess with them. You know, you can get actually prescribed, not just like Adderall, like amphetamine. You can get prescribed methamphetamine.
Yeah,
that's fucking wild, dude.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Launchpad podcast. So today, this is an in-person interview I did with my buddy Josh, and we dressed up as Machine Elves. So, yeah, we had a lot of fun making this episode and stuff. We talked about, you know, a lot to do with like the Machine Elf sort of phenomenology and the phenomenology of DMT entities, but there's a lot of like wook shit mixed in there because of who we are and stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you guys enjoy it too. Merry Christmas, and before we begin, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by AMANITA Ethnobotanicals. I'm a big fan of AMANITA and what they got going on over there. You know, they have a lot of these good ethnobotanical goodies, but in particular, my favorite products that they have are the AMANITA Muscaria products. Let's be honest, guys, we're living in a really fast-paced world with, you know, chronic amounts of stress and anxiety, and AMANITA Muscaria is a tool that you can put into your medicine bag now that can help you alleviate some of that stress. It works on your GABA receptors similar to something like alcohol or Xanax would, but it doesn't come with the same laundry list of side effects and, you know, potential for addiction. AMANITA products are becoming a lot more popular because of this, and there's a lot of sketchy brands out there right now that are pushing out products that are either like very low quality and or they're putting like research chemical benzos and tryptamines into them. I've tried about 5 different brands now of, you know, different AMANITA products, and I can honestly say that AMANITA is my favorite AMANITA brand that I've found so far. You know, their AMANITA products, they're well priced, they're potent, and you know, they have lab tests to back up all of their sort of products, which, like I just said a minute ago, is very important right now in this sort of market. So if you'd like to try some AMANITA products yourself, then head over to their website. It'll be down below in the description, and if you use the code AMANITA Ninja, one word, all caps, then that'll give you 10% off your order, and it'll also help, you know, support the show and me as a content creator, which I would appreciate very much. Much love.
Merging with simulator in 3, 2, 1.
But yeah, man, fucking Merry Christmas, dude. Merry Christmas. Okay, so I had a whole podcast with Jake not too long ago about the sort of potential link between Santa Claus and Christmas, and you know, whether or not Santa is a mushroom shaman. Have you like looked into this at all or ever?
I have a little bit. I touched on it a little bit. The history, the development of Santa in general is kind of fascinating, because it really just continues to rotate back into elves in general, or tomtas, or Nissa, or Hobbs, or farm fairies. They're all kind of the same thing, but with different cultural aspects tied to them. And the further back you go, the more they are just a representation of nature itself. That they live in the rocks, they live in the trees, in the mounds. They show up in these rings that are made out of mushrooms.
Are you talking about like the sort of like mythological elves and stuff that are like in some of the older pre-Christian religions and stuff like this? Okay, yes. I've looked into this too, because immediately whenever we talked about doing this podcast and I was thinking elves, I was like, I think this has been a part of like religion of like, so I was looking at that side of things, and like what I found was like the Norse elves, and this interested me because within their sort of like religion and mythology, it seems like these sort of like Nordic or Norse, however you would say that, elves, they believe them to be like these sort of like godlike beings that were like ancestors, and like they also believe that humans could become elves themselves, and there was like light elves and dark elves, and this like duality,
and black elves.
Actually
a whole nother subset
Right.
That falls outside of that sort of usual yin-yang that you'd see in things. And I found that very interesting, that there's like this whole other.
Right. Like they also, they believe that these elves could like manipulate like past, present, and future. And when you think about something like the Machine Elves, and people have all sorts of different like interactions and iterations of what their experiences have been with these so-called Machine Elves under the influence of psychedelics, but from a lot of the different experiences that I've read, these Machine Elves have a spirit in a way that is similar to that of like being able to it feels like, at least, that they can somehow manipulate like this sort of like space-time fucking continuum or some shit.
There's a
like
lot of lore about that.
Right.
You go, if you are trapped in an elven mound, then time could pass completely differently. You could be there for minutes, and it would pass by weeks in the normal world. And I found that very interesting because that's very similar to the psychedelic experience.
Right.
Time becomes very malleable. What feels like, particularly in DMT, what feels like it could be ages could just be minutes.
Yeah.
And vice versa. What feels like it's gone by in a flash could have taken your whole 8-hour trip.
It's very interesting, and I think we talked about that on a previous podcast, sort of the like teleporty nature of something like DXM and stuff like that, man. But yeah, man, so what is like your sort of entity contact been like? Because I know you've had certain experiences on different psychedelics and stuff, but yeah, what has that sort of been like for you? And try and describe it in a way to as best as you can to somebody who is like, imagine somebody in the audience who has never experienced psychedelics in general. Try explaining that entity contact.
So I've had different kinds of entity contact. With LSD, I've had a few sort of seance-y kind of deals, and those are interesting in their own right because whenever that happens, it feels like my normal conscious mind is there, but it gets pushed back, and then I get worn like a puppet by some entity that is directly interacting with me, and it will have things to tell me, and it seems to have precognitive capabilities. It'll be explaining things to me, like...
See, this is interesting because I haven't heard a lot of other people describe their entity contact like this, and this sort of like the way you're describing it is like this sort of like possessive.
This is an internalized thing. Yes, yeah. Okay. It's a lot different from this DMT kind of dealy, but for the LSD kind of deal, personally for me, this is whenever I'm actively practicing magic or something of that nature, and it's just like jet fuel on that fire.
What would that look like for you, man? Practicing magic.
Involves usually candles, some sort of relevant garb, a fair bit of mantra-ing.
But what is at the core of all of that?
The core of all of that?
Yeah.
The core of it is intent. The core is you are trying to elicit an intent, and you are ritualizing the pathway to get to it. So if I want to talk to a spirit, then I will sort of wrap the experience around a lot of spirits have their own sigils or something like that. That is the program that the ritual wraps itself around. So once you finally knock on that door and they answer and they say hello, that's when things go from like fun LSD trippy vibes to this is wild vibes. On the flip side, DMT, I feel like I'm speaking to external entities. For the LSD ones, maybe those are just deeply internalized neural pathways that are gaining their own thought form of personality. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that not being the case as well. I don't think I'm supposed to know directly what that is.
Yeah. My thing with that too is why can't it be both? You know what I'm saying? Why can't it be, okay, even if there is a direct sort of scientific explanation we have, like, well, this neurotransmitter does this and floods you with this feeling and these hormones, it's like, Okay, yeah, like, maybe that does explain it at the material level, but how do we know that isn't, like, just a divine gift or something,
I like the idea that the brain is more like a radio antenna, and we're just kind of tuning into different spirits that are just in the ether, in their own sort of frequency. And whenever you do those rituals, you're tuning the radio to their frequency, and they're getting a more direct contact to speak with you.
Okay, let's think about it from this angle then, though. Is this ethical then, what we're doing? Is it somewhat entityist of us to just plunge ourselves into their domain without any sort of consent? Let's think about that for a second. We're forcing ourselves upon these entities without any direct consent first. How do we know that this isn't violating their sort of like safe space in a way? Imagine we were just sitting right here and all of a sudden a praying mantis being jumped into our reality.
Well, that would be terrifying first off.
Well, yeah, man, and maybe
unless it was like a normal sized praying mantis entity.
Well, yeah.
It's like a regular little guy.
Yeah, maybe that's where they come from, but...
Well, I see it as more like knocking on their door. And if they want to answer, they will. And sometimes they won't.
I've had direct experiences, dude, of, like, being rejected, it feels like. And it's like, dude, I know I smoked enough. It's not that, like, oh, you didn't smoke enough. No, it's like, I know I smoked enough. And, in fact, it's this very clear communication of, like, no, it's not your time. You know what I'm saying?
We're not... It's not the conversation that you're ready to have, or maybe they're busy. Who knows? I don't know how time and jobs work for them.
Dude, that is one of the wackiest parts of it that always humbles me, too. I mean, the entire thing is very humbling, don't get me wrong. But, like, that humbles me a lot, too, is the fact that, like, I can go there, I can smoke enough, like, know that I smoked enough to go there and break through, right? And get rejected. That makes it feel like a very external sort of thing, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause it's like, like, at least internally, like I had all the intention in the world of coming here, of going here, it's like, so.
On the flip side, with something like DMT, not too long ago, a certain individual and I smoked some DMT on a mossy hillside, which was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And I kept my eyes open, which I know part of it is you go into the Mind Palace or the Chrysanthemum or something like that. But my eyes shot open.
I had never seen anyone do this. Like, you were like the entire experience. I knew there, it was a decent dose loaded into that vapor genie. And, like, that you were smacking. And you just kept your eyes open the entire thing and just, like, sit up and look around.
Well, I saw a leaf, like, branch into fractals, and then that fractal, like, whipped back into everything the leaf was attached to. And then everything took on all these new colors that I've never seen before. And instead of seeing the forest that we were in, I was in this plane of existence where I didn't know anything, but I still recognize the forest. But instead of seeing a forest, I just see this huge flow of living energy, and it's just like one big entity having a handshake with itself in the thousands and thousands of different ways. And there was an entity in that was all encompassing, and it kind of touched my mind with its, and it was just like, hey, it's gonna be okay. Welcome back. Welcome back to this.
Right, dude. Isn't that weird, man? Like, okay, what would you call that, man? Because, like, to me, subjectively, and once again, this is very personal, I've had many experiences that are exactly like what you just described there at the end of, like, this force or something, whatever it is, this fucking Holy Spirit thing that, at least within the experience, it feels undeniable. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
At least within it, it's like 100% undeniable. It feels that way. It was
communicating directly with me about the experience that I was having. And I remember telling you afterwards, like, she is beautiful. She is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
And it literally felt like I was being embraced by the Earth Spirit, by Gaia.
That makes sense, because Gaia is, to me, dude, Gaia is that, like, feminine, and, like, to me, like, and this is going to sound whatever, but God is more of that, like, masculine, fatherly type of energy. In a good way, you know what I'm saying? In a very good way. And Gaia is like our home. It's like our Mother Earth, you know? It's like our mom.
The Earth is a giant womb ready to let us move outwards. Yeah. That's how I see it.
Oh God, we can't even go down this rabbit hole during this podcast. We'll get lost in the space talk.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess we are Machine Elves, so
that's right.
Yeah, dude.
But the difference between those things was whenever the LSD entities and I interact.
Yeah.
It is more internalized. I do not have this massive shift in my perspective and the plane of existence that I'm in. So instead, they're using the language that I've got and speaking directly inside of my head. And that does sound, delusional or schizotypical or something like that.
No, but dude. Honestly, now that you're describing it like this, and I'm sorry to cut you off again, but now that you're describing it like this, it's kind of like clicking and it's making sense because I'm thinking about my own relationship to something like mushrooms. There is sort of that internal dialogue and that sort of like hero's journey you can go on just within your own, headspace that I've experienced too. And it can, and I have had experiences on mushrooms where it's felt like there is some sort of like other presence / force playing out like these stories and resolutions in my head, and they're giving me these insights, and but
sometimes you go outside and you're having a discussion with that voice in your head, and it'll be like, watch this, and then suddenly you'll see this cycle of life playing out between these turtles in a pond that like you didn't know those were going to be there. The voice knew, and it made you look over at them.
Yeah.
And then they appeared. And that's the sort of thing where it's like, where's the precog abilities coming from? Because if I possess that, that's pretty cool. But
yeah. It's funny the sort of dance you can have, I feel like, with the universe. And I'm with you, dude. Once again, just like disclaimers or whatever the fuck. Maybe we're delusional, and I'm open to that. Maybe it's placebo or whatever. But it does sort of feel like, man, there's this funny dance you can have with the universe as long as like you, and this is gonna sound douchey, but like you're open to that truly, and like you have that intention of dancing with it.
I think the intent is very important.
Yeah, and I think just honestly opening yourself up to that, to the universe, and dancing with it and having like good intentions, and like it's funny how like at least in my experience, in my journey, since I feel like I've opened myself up to certain realities and possibilities and just kind of with good intentions and dance with that, it's funny how it feels at least like some magical things can happen. You know what I mean? But what we were talking about, the sort of internalization dialogues, entities with mushrooms, and how I can relate to that with you. What differs for me with DMT with that is that DMT feels like radically external, and more powerful than me, and even separate from me. It can feel like radically separate from me, but almost simultaneously like it is me at the same time, which is a really weird feeling to have, and hard to describe to somebody who's never experienced that. But with DMT, it's this extreme, like in my face, like, hey bitch, like I'm here.
Welcome to the new reality.
Right, and it's super odd. These sort of like me and Rob were talking about this when I went onto his podcast from Adeptus Psychonautica. He was asking me about like what is it in the heart of the experience, and we're talking like meaning, like maybe like meaning and hero's journey, and like that's a big part of it. But he said this, and I think he was really right about this. He was like, there's sort of like a resolution that feels like it happens within the DMT experience. And he's right. I was like, there's this like, and a big part of it too is, I think, tied to this other aspect of the DMT experience that I talk about a lot, that we've talked about before, is the pre-flight anxiety that you can experience. That I'll say you do experience, because like at least
on that mossy hillside, I was so aggressive about dealing with that.
Right. Because that's the only way you can do it, man. You have to face it, and that's where I think part of the resolution comes in, is like, DMT is a radically extreme experience that does require, I think, true bravery from somebody, and an ability to go to a certain place psychologically and
that
lose,
actually reminds me. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, and lose certain amounts of control and release into that. And I think that the reward is not all of it, but part of that reward is that feeling of resolution that you get through the experience of like, oh shit, I was brave. I jumped into this hero's journey thing right here. But sorry, go.
So a long time ago, and I've told you about this, but I want to talk about the flip side of the entity experience, and this is why I didn't do DMT for many years.
Yeah, can I go pee real quick?
Pause.
Yeah. All right. Continue. What were you talking about?
The flip side of this is why, while yes, sitting on the mossy hill and being embraced by this all-encompassing energy in this weird, almost alternate but similar universe. Years ago, I was very flippant about DMT use. I just did it for funsies. A little bit, a lot, give it away, sell it, didn't matter.
Like a true psychopath. How dare you?
Yeah, it was more psychopathic, really.
How dare you with the sacrament, Josh?
Well, I also let other people be guinea pigs for my... Anyways, the problem with it was that at one point, I had this external force descend towards me, and it scared the shit out of me. Yeah. And psychologically...
It's like scared straight.
It did. Psychologically, I put myself, and I remember this very distinctly, my ego just started slamming up layer after layer of this almost Iron Maiden-like thing around my energy to prevent whatever that was from coming in. And it didn't like that. It didn't like that I had cut myself off from it, and it just started pounding away at it.
Yeah.
And I started having closed eye visuals where it didn't matter if my eyes were open or closed. I was still seeing whatever was in. I got up. I was just bawling my eyes out, and I ran and laid down all with my eyes closed and just lost it for a little while. And I stepped back from DMT use for years after that. Yeah. Years and years. It was so much more than I felt like I could handle. So going back to it and stepping into I'm just going to do it. If they don't want to talk to me, they'll tell me.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
And you felt like you got that feedback loop sort of resolution closed there, like, oh, I am welcome. It's okay. Yes. Like, it's really okay. But it's what you were just describing there, man, is I think that is something that a lot of people can relate to. And I've seen this within forums and different Instagram pages and other people I've talked to who do DMT and stuff, is almost everybody who does it a lot or, like, you know, whatever, interacts with it often, will hit a point where eventually they get like rejected, it feels like, or something like that, where there's this like staunch feeling and even communication that can happen that's like, oh, I'm not meant to come at this time. And you can legitimately get like rejected out of the DMT realm, and it can be like this like blow to the balls, you know what I mean? Like real kick, it can be a real kick to the nuts. Like it's really like, you know, it can, in this weird way.
It hurts the ego a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes, I was just about to say that. In this weird way, it can hurt the ego. It's like, what's wrong with me? I'm
not good enough. And my problem was almost the opposite. I didn't want to let them in. I rang them up on the phone, knocked on their door, opened it, and then slammed it back on them. And that was very rude of me, I think. It was very rude. But I was also very frightened. I was very scared of what was going on because all of my experiences before that, because I tried quite a few things, never had this externalized spirit thing going on.
Yeah.
And maybe that was like some level of sociopathy going on back then.
Yeah.
Because I just, none of that, it's not real. Don't care about it. I can ignore it.
Interesting.
Until I couldn't.
Yeah, until it's like that, like I described earlier, you can't deny it. Until it got to that point. You know, and that does happen with DMT, man. But it was very interesting that day we did it together because, you know, it's like I knew. You know, I've been your friend for several years, but since we've been friends, you had never really interacted with DMT, and you had told me why. You told me that story. And we had this, like, long mushroom hike together, and it was, like, towards the end of the hike, I was like, I might smoke some DMT, bro. I was like, you know, because we're going to that spot, that really nice spot.
Somehow we just ended up there. Who knows how?
And we had like a really nice mushroom trip together on that hike. Just like a really beautiful day too, weather-wise, and all the different things. And
it was like a very long hike too. It was
very long, yeah. And I was like, I think I might smoke some DMT, man. Okay, you were watching me and stuff, and talking about how you might want to do it. And I was like, all right. I was like, I'll go first, and we did the whole thing. And I was like, it's like, if you want to afterwards, like you can grab it, or I can, load it back up for you or whatever. And dude, like by the time I'd like kind of came to my senses from my experience, I realized you had taken your dose, and I was like, oh shit. And you were like over there like, looking around, and just like I was like, what is he fucking doing? I was like, close your damn eyes.
Knocked me down, and I couldn't shut my eyes.
Maybe you weren't meant to, man. Maybe that's the experience you're supposed to have.
I don't think I was supposed to.
Or maybe you missed out on the ultimate cosmic secret, Josh.
Yeah, should have shut your eyes.
You fucked up, dude. You fucked up big time. So, you're gonna get punished next time for that one.
See, whenever I did the like ego shielding kind of thing, layer after layer, it felt like a systematic process to undo that over years. It felt like I literally put up a bunch of fronts on my ego that I had to systematically take back apart. And it was a lot harder to take them apart than it was to put them up.
Yeah.
And then whenever you had that out, I remember you handed it to me, and then you turned to do something else. And I was just like, all right, let's go. No waiting. I'm not going to wait anymore. No more fronting. No more worrying about it. What happens, happens.
You know an interesting thing I read about the whole like sort of DMT entity phenomenon?
Mm-hmm.
That they were doing these studies on people, and the idea of like certain neurochemistry being the responsible for the mental imagery that leads to people thinking they have entity contact experiences. These things put forth, and then they test them, different participants and stuff. But anyways, one of the things they found is that there's people who have this, I guess you might call it condition. I want to say it's like aphasia, something like that, where they don't have mental imagery.
Yeah.
These people, and I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, if that was the right word. It's something like that, like aphasia or something. But
I think that's it.
Yeah, they don't have mental imagery. They don't create mental imagery.
Maybe it's aphantasia.
Aphantasia, something like that, right. But anyways, when these people smoke DMT, they can still have entity contact.
Ooh.
Even though they're not having mental imagery. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, Josh.
Those might be hitting, or maybe it's the root beer.
Yeah, yeah, the diet root beer. Diet root beer. Go get you some. This podcast is in no way, shape, or form sponsored or endorsed by Diet Root Beer, but it is our rocket fuel, our chosen source of fuel here on the Launchpad podcast.
I drink it every day, except the days that I don't drink it.
Dude, I drink it till somebody stops me. That's where I'm at with it. You know what I'm saying? It's usually Child Protective Services.
Oh my god. So, back to the entities. Do you think... Here's my question for you. Here's my question for the audience. It's a philosophical question. Do you think that they are all separate entities, or do you think that they are one entity pretending to be separate entities?
Interesting, like God.
Mm-hmm. Just wearing different masks.
Dude, that's fucking deep. No, I mean, dude, I don't know. I think definitely could be. Because I've had experiences of like Godhead type moments where it's felt like that. It feels like there's this sort of like internet, like of consciousness, or in like this thread that runs through everything. It can feel like that, Is that what it ultimately is? I don't know. But like, if that's what it is, then yeah, maybe it is like Godhead spilled throughout like other demigods, and then those demigods are in charge of their own like subset of universes or fucking aspects of reality. I don't know. That would be fun though, wouldn't it? Like, think about if you're God and you're already creating universes for sort of like, I don't want to say play, But maybe that's what it is. Play, learning, something like that. Evolvement, just evolution.
Enjoying
Existence, right? It's like, why wouldn't you also create, like, astral realm levels and stuff, too?
Yeah.
Do you know, that are like, oh, imagine you could just spend 10,000 years in, like, the ultimate cosmic sound bath wave with your elfin friends, where all you do is, like, have, like, fucking, like, mushroom sex at the, like, the golden milk pool, you know what I'm saying? Or just some crazy shit. Like, you know, people have wild, like, I've had wild experiences on DMT of just, like going to a castle and just, like, seeing people having sex and shit. Like, dude, you know what I mean? Like, it's...
I mean, if you think about it, monkeys are the species that learned to manipulate their environment for what they want. They like, in any way. And I think that is quite literally the first step to achieving a form of, like, reality creation.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you this. Let's say materialism shit to the side, just for the sake of this sort of question, right? Let's say theoretically it is the case that these machine elves that people interact with are a sort of, like, self-autonomous external thing that we're interacting with, whether that be on, like, a different dimension, different realm, who knows, but we're interacting with these things, right, that are an external real thing. Why is it them? Why are they one of the common sort of entities that people run into? You know, because there's other common entities that are found within the experience, like the purple woman, the praying mantis people, things like yeah, it's a real thing, dude. Like, things like this.
I'm not sure I'd enjoy that one.
Yeah, no, that one sounds kind of gnarly, but yeah. Why do you think it would be the elves? Why do you think they would be one?
I would say it's because, like, early elves are quite literally identified by their beauty. They are the beautiful ones. You can become encharmed by their true beauty.
Yeah, dude, and that's one of the things they talk about with the machine elves. Is they don't look like the sort of, like, hell, even like what we're dressed up as. We kind of do look more like Christmas elves right now, but
yeah,
you know, they are more ethereal and angelic and alien-like. You know what I'm saying? I'll fully admit, I've never had a direct DMT experience with machine elves. I've had direct DMT experiences that feel very similar to machine elves in terms of they are beings that feel like, for whatever reason, have some sort of relationship or knowing of me, and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they know of me, and the experience I've had with them, the things that they communicate to me within it feel like confirmation of that, you know what I'm saying, of their sort of knowing of me. And once again, that could just be me, my own subconscious. But, you know, in these experiences with these beings, they've also felt sort of like almost like long lost family members or some shit, dude. Like those, like that level of, like, intimacy when you see them and they see you. It's like almost, yeah, dude. Like, have you ever, like, seen, like, somebody who you truly missed, and, like, just seeing them in person, it's like, oh my god, it's like you're like this, almost like this wave of, like, of hormones, and, like, oh, you're alive, you know what I mean? Like, seeing them in flesh, there's something to that, dude. There's a similar feeling that has happened to me with these beings, and people describe the same thing of machine elves, of them feeling kind of like ancestry, like, you know. And so I don't know, dude. It really fascinates me. It's like, you know, maybe they are some sort of, like, you know, they're referred to as, like, Santa's helpers. Maybe they are little, like, fucking time wave zero helpers out there in the astral planes.
I'd like to believe that.
Right? It's fun.
Really like
it's fun. Fuck it. Leave me alone, right? It's like people are like, you're crazy. They're actually this one, like, we can show on a CAT scan that this part of your brain lights up during a psychedelic experience. So all magical shit's off the table. It's like, dude, what? Like,
I think it plays into the brain still being an antenna.
Yeah.
You're activating certain parts of that antenna that let you access other areas.
Right. And it's interesting, too, what you just said, because people commonly report that it feels like they can more easily access some of these states once they've had the experiences of them. Like, for instance, somebody who's smoked DMT might report that after smoking DMT, weed seems to be a lot stronger for them. You know, or just, like, in general, their meditations will feel deeper and stuff like that.
That doesn't surprise. It probably touches you at a spiritual level that lets you like more easily access. Once the neural groove is built, it makes sense that you'd be able to access it more often.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna go blow my nose.
Do you think that we would be, with our little 4D monkey minds, be able to actually comprehend that sort of thing? Like their nature? Wouldn't it like have several dimensions beyond what we would normally consider?
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing about the nature of these psychedelic experiences. Like, for instance, for us to fully communicate efficaciously with like these machine elves, I do believe we'll have to employ somebody like, you know, like Donald Trump or something like that to play that real 5D chess with them.
Oh man!
Yeah, no, I don't know.
What if he's a machine elf and he's just like playing the role?
Have you ever heard Alex Jones rant about, like, on the Joe Rogan podcast about, like, how the Nazis were using... He used to claim that the Nazis were exploring DMT in the DMT realms.
What?
To try and bring back, like, technology and information to, like, you know what I'm saying? And
wow.
Maybe they were successful with it.
There was, like, a whole secret Nordic cult in the top ranks of it. That was a thing.
And of course, they were using LSD, experimenting with that and stuff too, because that was, you know.
I mean, everybody was trying it.
Yeah, everyone was trying LSD, but
they really went heavy on the meth use, though.
Who did? Oh, the Nazis.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Honestly, like, maybe when you get back to that, you know what I'm saying? Like, not Nazis. I mean, like meth use. Oh my god, dude. No.
You might want to cut that.
No, dude. I'm going to just leave it. I'm gonna
leave it alive.
Because I clarified. God. But meth use. You know, like, I mean, like, what I mean is, like...
It is still prescribed as an ADHD drug.
You know, you can get actually prescribed, not just, like, Adderall, like amphetamine. You can get prescribed methamphetamine.
Yes.
That's fucking wild, dude. I don't think a lot of people know that.
No,
there's like an actual like
it's recommended against unless there's reasons for not taking the other ones.
It's harder to get for sure, but there's like a brand name and everything for it.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts actually. I wonder how it compares to Adderalls and Vyvanse.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got its like slight differences, but I bet it's pretty similar. You know what I'm saying? Like pretty comparable.
Yeah.
Same time, you know what I mean? Like I've heard. You know, because whenever I was in jail and stuff, I talked to a lot of meth heads in there. Like, it sounds mean, but like a lot of people were in there for meth charges, either selling and or possession. You know, and like they don't play around with meth in this state, dude, like at all. But yeah, dude, like people who it's funny because meth heads are like, even once they've like fully detoxed and withdrew and all that. They have just like this sort of like cracked out, rambunctious nature about them. Even when they're sober, dude, it's funny. A lot of them do, and also they're very loyal to meth in this funny way. Almost like, you know, like weed users, like some people who like
keeps me chill.
It's my medicine. You know, you meet people. For some people, once again, like it's legitimate medicine. But you meet those people who it's like, that's my medicine, and it's like, well, you're a little pale, dude. Like. Maybe 8 globs of wax a day isn't the healthiest, but you know, it's.
Or maybe it is. The science isn't in yet.
Yeah, meet people with the same loyalty like that with meth. It's like they're like, no, I swear, like, you know, like you just a little bit. So maybe I knew this one dude who said like he would actually weigh out his doses and encapsulate it and take like one dose just a little bit in the morning. He was like a farmer guy too. You know what I'm saying? He had like 2 kids who he had full custody of, so he took care of. And like paid all, you know, this is like paid his bills and like farmed like for like 14 hours a day, 12 hours a day or something.
Oh my god,
yeah. It was ridiculous, dude. He's at paychecks were like 80 hours a week, you know what I'm saying? Almost every week and shit. He's a farmer and just worked his ass off, but he liked opiates and he liked meth. And he would do a little bit of meth every morning, and he would take some Suboxone. He was prescribed Suboxone from like a clinic. He would take Suboxone a little bit, like tiny bounce from his strips throughout the day. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, no, it's not great for me and stuff. He was like, but I was getting by and, you know, and shit. And fucking, I think he got like a DUI or some shit. You know what I'm saying? So.
Damn, that's wild.
Yeah. Shit happens.
I tend to make a habit of avoiding the considered super addictives.
Yeah.
Like,
I found that I'm really not even drawn towards a lot of the super addictives.
Yeah, I'm really not. I've seen what most of them do to people. Admittedly, I was on stimulants for a long time. And that was like very low level in the grand scheme of things. But it still did have like a long-term impact because of that use. So I can't really imagine taking it several steps up.
I mean, speaking at like a physiological level, you were like physically addicted to stimulants for a good part of your childhood. Like, how long were you on them again for?
Oh, I want to say like 7-ish years.
Yeah. If you take something like that every day, dude, like, I mean, it's like
you rotate it 5 days on, 2 days off. Don't take it on certain breaks.
How did you feel on the days you wouldn't take it? Did you ever notice you felt like?
Oh, I was just like, boom, 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 boom. I was so much better off without it. I was on Ritalin, which is like, very toned out, and then.
So I took Ritalin. I tried Ritalin too before they put me on Adderall. And Ritalin to me felt very similar to Adderall in terms of like the same sort of stimulating, euphoric, dopaminergic sort of high that you experience during it. But the come down for me with Ritalin was so hard, dude. I'd get like angry. I'd get very agitated with people, dude.
Yeah.
I just like would like lock myself in my room as soon as I get home from school. Like I just like could not handle like social interactions when I was coming down, dude. And for the rest of the day.
It fucked with my sleep super bad for a long time. That was the worst part of it. Personally, but it also messed with my stomach. I couldn't eat certain foods for a long time.
Dude, I got into this crazy habit of like I wouldn't get hungry until like what you said, especially on Adderall. I mean, I take it before I go to school in the morning, but for some reason, like 10 o'clock at night, I still feel somewhat stimulated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't get hungry all day, and I wouldn't eat all day until like fucking like 11 o'clock at night or some shit, and I just eat like 2,000 calories and go to bed. You know, like I knew it wasn't healthy, but it was like also I was a growing teenager, and like I just was Dude,
I couldn't eat anything for like there were days where I just wouldn't eat at all.
Right, there was real appetite suppression. Like, and I don't know if like people who haven't taken like stimulants like that, I don't think they understand how real that appetite suppression is that happens whenever you're on something like that. And one funny thing I noticed in jail is whenever somebody would come in who was on meth, they would come in almost every single time super skinny, like visibly like sickly skinny. But then within a matter of a month, 2 months, they blow up like 40 pounds.
Dude,
like
on
40
the days
pounds,
that I didn't eat, on the days that I didn't take any meds, I would eat so much I would literally buy food at lunch and then snag it for class later. I would have multiple lunches at once, just ate everything that I possibly could.
It's like you couldn't get enough, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's the funny thing, dude. That's the way weed makes me feel. That's a weird thing to me. I understand physiologically why it does that because of this sort of regulation of that endocannabinoid system and stuff like that. But man, dude, like the munchies that I get on weed is incredible. It's like this fucking black hole void that cannot be filled sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Beyond the point where it actually hurts.
Right, dude. Like, and I've gotten better about like not eating till pain. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's also like just like, even if I've like eaten a very well balanced, protein rich just meal, you know what I'm saying? It's like this should be satiating. It's like no, because I'm high. It's like no, I just feel like I literally am almost like I haven't eaten at all in like 2 days. That's what it can feel like.
Smoking weed makes long fasting for me nearly impossible. Like I can't break 24 hours if I've smoked. I'm just like, I'll do it next time.
I think actually being off weed is a great way for me to fast because it's like my appetite's just not there if I don't smoke. You know what I'm saying?
It is a lot easier.
Yeah, it's like almost just non-existent. Yeah, but
I'm not a big fan of my eating habits whenever I smoke weed.
Well, you should work on that, Josh. Machine Elves are gonna punish you for that.
Well, they might give me coal. So let's talk about Machine Elves again.
Well, yeah. What about them, man?
Let's talk about elves.
Okay.
So, what do you think about the concept of elves, who they changeling children? They transform their own child who is sickly or something and trade it out for the human's child, which is healthy.
What?
This is a huge part of elf lore. Well, fairy, elf, troll, a lot of these different others, the spirits.
Dude, can I tell you an experience I had?
Yeah.
I'm like over
Are you
here.
changeling?
Dude, I'm like over here like already like fucking, I don't know, not tearing up, but like getting like chills when you said that.
Oh.
I had a DMT experience. I feel like I've told you about this experience before, but you've probably forgotten it.
Tell me again.
This happened like 2 weeks before my spot got raided and I got popped and stuff,
yes.
right? And I was in this weird mental spot already where I knew I needed to stop selling drugs and stuff. And I've told you that. But dude, I had this DMT experience up in my room where I saw Hudson, but it wasn't like just like Hudson's like normal body. It looked like I was looking at Hudson's like spirit body, and the plane of like existence that we were in, this realm, was like very like geometrically made almost, if that makes sense. Like, there's like this grid like pattern that underlied everything was like composed of it, you know what I'm saying? And it was very like white and blue and yellow for some reason. But anyways, I saw Hudson's like spirit body almost, and he was like crying, dude. And like I was like trying to like communicate to him like, it's okay, like daddy's here, you know, because like as a father, as a parent in general, you always want to like, you know, under the right circumstances, of course, you know, you have that inclination to always want to console your child, you know what I'm saying? And like, hey, daddy's here, it's okay, you know? But dude, I remember I was trying to like communicate this to him, like, hey, it's okay, daddy's here, you know? But it was like I could see that like he didn't know, he couldn't feel my presence. It's like I wasn't there. And I was like, it's okay. And he just kept crying and stuff. It was like he was scared. And these two like entities that looked like similarly shaped to him, just like this like very opaque plane made of the same grid of the landscape that I was describing, right? These beings, two beings walked up beside Hudson and like kind of like, you know, like wrapped their arms around him, like grabbed his hand and stuff, and you could tell it was like they're like, hey, like, come on. And they took him and they started just like walking off into like the distance of like my visual field, and then they just kept getting smaller off in the distance, and then they blinked out like, you know those old TV screens that when you shut them off it's like shoo.
Yeah.
It was like that. My experience was like that. And like I was like, I came back into my body, and I just got out of that DMT experience. Dude, I just started like crying because, you know, I'm like a dad, dude. I'm like he's like the most important fucking thing in the world to me, and I was, you know, dealing with all this like psychological guilt and like anxiety already because of like the lifestyle I was living.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I asked myself, was that like a subconscious thing where it's like I just had this subconscious guilt that played out into a mental imagery experience, and or was it like the DMT entities trying to tell me, get your shit together, dude, or you might lose your kid or some shit.
Yeah.
You know, man? And so, yeah, that one, that what you just said there about swapping out your kids, it immediately threw me back into that, because it was like, they weren't elves, I wouldn't say, but they were like these little like divine being things, these extraterrestrial beings that fucking took my kid, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was very odd for me to watch.
That's a wildly intense experience to go through, and I do think that like the lifestyle that you were at the time is what tuned you into that focus.
Yeah.
It was a weird time.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, the elves.
The elves.
The elves. It's so much fun. It's turned into like this almost like meme. It's such a meme now in psychedelic cultures. The machine elves, haha. But it's like, then people will actually fucking like see them and their experiences like, oh my god, guys, the machine, but the machine elves are real. You know, it's funny, you know.
I wonder how the trajectory of DMT use is going to continue upward in terms of like...
I wonder if it's going to get to the point where it becomes a long lost thing with like where Neuralink and stuff. It's like nobody does drugs anymore. You just download like the fucking like, you know, fucking DMT Realm DLC pack part 87.
I'm not doing the Neuralink. I'm not doing it. I will not do it.
What if it's better? What if it's even better, dude, somehow?
Dude, here's what's going to happen. Somebody is going to write viruses faster than Elon Musk can write antiviruses. And then they're going to infect it and turn it into one superhuman botnet. It'll be awesome and it'll be cool, but it'll be the end of the world.
The ultimate robot nuclear warfare.
It's like Borg, just like that.
Oh, dude. That would be intense. Honestly, it'd come down to the people who know how to, like, survive off the land and shit, I'm telling you. That's what, like, what a real sort of apocalyptic World War III would be about. Is, like, the people who can hunt and, like, fucking grow a garden and, like, have rifles and a lot of ammo. Shit like that, dude. Those are the people who will be, like, okay, or at least have a shot at some sustainability and longevity. But
I'm not sure how I do in a total collapse scenario. Like, an overnight total collapse. I have enough. Like, I'd be able to start.
Yeah. I'd go to my parents' house, man, because, like, you know, Judd, my stepdad, with the military stuff. And we'd be all right, but the only problem is that neighborhood is, like, too suburban-like, I feel like.
Yeah.
To really make it, like, a long-term thing. It's like, I feel like you would need land. You would need control. A big thing about all of that, too, is you would need control over your own water source, like some sort of well or something where you know you can consistently and continuously get your own clean water, because that's a form of warfare, too, that people don't know about. It's, like, fucking up people's water sources. Yeah.
Well, water is pretty nice. But if they ever come through and just, like, really poison the shit, honestly, any of us that live in neighborhoods, we might be okay depending on how your neighbors are.
That's the thing, man, is, like, I really feel like you're going to need, like, either tight-knit community, faction, militias, and or, like, there's going to be little rulers that pop up and warlords.
I think any city will go into warlord mode, and then all the, like, off the highway neighborhood areas are going to be more like enclaves. I think your neighbors trying to figure out what the fuck to do.
I know I think you're going to have, like, a lot of neighborhoods and stuff that will be able to, like, militia up in a very, like, cohesive manner and stuff like that. But then you're also going to have the fucking neighborhood where goddamn, you know, Greg from 437, House 437 Olive Street, all of a sudden he wants to be the pack fucking alpha, but everyone's like, dude, like, you're fucking overshaped, out of weight, you don't even know how to shoot a rifle straight, you wear these white New Balances, like, dude, we're not, like, you're not in charge. And then he's like starts threatening people and it makes them uncomfortable, so now they have to murder this guy. But then his wife freaks the fuck out, you know. It's like, what do we do with her?
You exile them, you don't murder them.
Well, this type of thing, dude, like, this really happened too, especially if it happens suddenly, even in the nicest of neighborhoods, even here in, like, this small town Bible Belt of Kentucky. I'm telling you, 2 minutes down the road at that Dollar General, people will be murdering each other for goddamn water and toilet paper with fucking hunting rifles. You know what I'm saying? Like, that will be happening instantly if it's really like, oh yeah, like, electricity's permanently out.
Yeah, I give it a few days.
I'd give it less than 24 hours, dude, before there's people with guns looting shit. But if the electricity really went out like that, yeah, dude. And people were getting the message, like, hey, but then again, how would people get that message?
That's what I'm saying. There's no hive mind thing going on where everybody's just like, panic, fight.
But what if there was a lot of, like, warnings leading up into that, like, hey guys, we might get some sort of attack, so that if that happens, we have no idea how long this shit's going to be out for. That's when people would start prepping. But
you'd probably want to.
There's people who do, like, low-key prep and high-key prep too already.
There's people who high-key prep to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah, dude, like millions of dollars. Yeah.
But also, it's like, hey, it happens.
At least there's some people who are going to survive if it does happen. Maybe they can repopulate, you know, with the whole bunkers and shit. So,
when the Machine Elves come down from space to wipe out humanity,
I do think there is something to be said that is like potentially very liberating about people being able to prioritize these things and at least have some sort of self-sufficiency at some of these things, like being able to, like, get clean water and, like, you know, skin a deer, shoot a deer and stuff. In case of something like this, man, because it wouldn't surprise me if within our lifetime nothing like that ever happened and we just continued to accelerate it electronically, but it also wouldn't surprise me.
It just hangs over us just all the time.
What it also wouldn't surprise me if all shit completely went sideways and a different reality was presented to us. a lot of people.
I think we're getting there.
Sometimes I get this weird feeling that we're moving into this like radically beautiful reality, but there's going to be like ripping of a Band-Aid sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think that that's how it works. Growing, changing can be painful.
Yeah.
I think that I think there's a shift coming up for people just in general. It's coming on as a slow wave, but it is to literally recognize other people as people and to be like, yeah, life's kind of hard. We should work together better.
Do you mean more like the international level? Sort of like we're all, because that's a big thing. It seems like nationally, like, you know, there is internal division and stuff. That's more real than it's ever has been. But at least there is sort of, while we don't trust the government, we trust that like not everything's gonna like fall apart. Like there's not gonna just be like bloody murder in the streets and
that's
shit like
the
that.
whole point. Is to maintain order.
You know what I'm saying? And like it seems like nationally, a lot of different nations can at least maintain that level of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, we can at least provide a society where people can generally raise children knowing that like they're not gonna. But you know, then again, there's a lot of countries that can't.
Did you know that our military has a contingency plan for zombies? It is named and filed.
That's crazy. But I guess there's a lot of countries who can't even handle that, though, where they can't even handle that basic necessity of like stability.
No.
So it's like, how do you bring everyone together if like internally you can't even, you know? And then all of it.
They're fighting. Everybody's fighting over resources.
It's all about ideologies too, man. It's all ideology driven. Not all of it, but I think a lot of it is. Most of it, dude. Ideologies, dude. And like, I was listening to a podcast the other day where there was this special operator on it, like, you know, like special forces guy, and it was very interesting what he said. You know, he was talking about when you become a special operator, he's like, you know, it's like one of the things I realized is like we'd killed a bunch of these like, you know, fucking like terrorist guys, right, somewhere over there in like the Middle East. And he's like, we ran up on them, and he's like, you know, we're looking at their bodies. He's like, I realized in that moment, he was like, there was like a certain level of respect I had for that guy who I just killed. He was like, because like, sure, it wasn't like a good ideology, but he was willing to like go to bat for and die for an ideology.
His true faith.
It's like the same way he was, the special operator. You know what I'm saying? Like he was out there willing to die for his ideology too. You know what I'm saying? And so there was a certain weird level of like respect that happened, and he clicked for him. And I thought that was really interesting. And it's definitely not of the same sort of like nobility and stuff, but you know, I feel a similar sort of like brotherhood with people who have also like smoked DMT because of like what I described earlier of like there is a certain threshold of just like, hey, you do just kind of have to be brave, you know, and just do this. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, like we can do all the prep work and
the most reality-shattering, mind-bending experience that your brain is really capable of throwing at you.
Yeah,
you gotta be brave for it. And some people are just stupid, but.
And so I hold a certain level of respect for other human beings who can like get themselves to do that, if you will, like muster up that, you know what I'm saying, that courage. Yeah. It's interesting. And it's also just like fun to talk to them. Like, so what did you experience? What happened to you, man? Because I got some crazy stories that I know you can believe.
I think salvia is the ultimate example of that. The only reason that you do it is to give it to somebody else and be like, what happened to you?
Right. There is that whole weird culture with salvia where it's like this like funny like see what happens. Like it's really kind of like irresponsible, honestly, when you sit and think about it. Because like with something like DMT, bro, we're like special sacrament, I will set up a ceremony for you. But with salvia, we're like, get the cameras rolling, YouTube, here we come. You know what I'm saying?
I turned into a tadpole. Everything became an accordion.
Dude, it's so wild. Salvia is such a wild experience. That's the funny thing about it, is that whenever I posted my YouTube video about like my salvia experience, and you know, salvia turned me into a tadpole and all this stuff, I had a guy comment on it at one point, and I thought this was very interesting. And what he said was, he was like, hey man, like, you know, I watch all your videos. He's like, something like, why don't you approach salvia the same way you approach DMT, with the same sort of respect and brevity? And I was like, oh shit. I was like, honestly thinking about it, I was like, yeah, you're right, man. Because every time we did it, it was very just like recreational.
What's gonna happen?
Yeah, I want to see you do it now, bitch. That type of behavior, you know. But like, you know, but he was telling me, he was like, and I have seen other people report this, of them being able to use it as a tool, as a spiritual growth tool, or a sacrament, or whatever the fuck, you know. Like, I have heard people report that, even the strong extracts, smoking it. You know, of course, there's a sort of like more traditional ceremonial way of taking it.
Always.
But you know, I think that's interesting that people can smoke salvia, and like some people go to it semi-regularly, like how there's people like me who semi-regularly smoke DMT. There's people who semi-regularly return to salvia.
I don't know if I will ever try salvia again, honestly.
I think I will.
It wasn't for...
I think I will at some point for some reason.
It was interesting, but it was also not...
jarring.
It was jarring, but it didn't feel particularly deep. It felt very shallow. It felt like a very, like, colorful, shallow pool.
I wonder if that's part of me wonders if, like, the reason why I felt a similar way.
And maybe that's disrespect, but...
No, and maybe...
That was my first impression of it.
Well, maybe that's what it is, man, is that, like, maybe a reason why I felt a similar way and you felt that way is because of the way we approached it. You know what I'm saying? Imagine, like, if I approached DMT that way, like, bitch, like, I'm here, you know, like... Excuse me, universe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel bad. Like, there's just, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a good chance I'd get like a bitch slap, a cosmic bitch slap. You know what I'm saying? But
there's a good chance you might.
Yeah. But
I would like to more ritualize most of the things that I imbibe for a multitude of reasons, including
Benadryl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, dude, you need to stop doing that, bro. I'm telling you, you need to stop doing that. It's becoming a problem. The Benadryl, Josh. That's really what this podcast was about. It's an intervention for your fucking Benadryl addiction.
I need it.
Why do you need Benadryl, bro?
Or my head clogs.
I know, but 12 a day, dude. Like, that's kind of getting.
It's like a tolerance ramp.
I know, man. That's what I'm saying. It's really not good for you. But I mean, if you need it to sleep, I guess it's your medicine, brother.
No, honestly.
Just joking. Of course, Josh is not actually addicted to Benadryl, guys.
I swear I'm not addicted.
Well, what are you gonna say now? I'm kind of scared. I'm not addicted, but
I'm not, there's no but. I'm just not addicted.
Oh, okay. You don't take it. You don't take Benadryl?
No, I actually don't take Benadryl.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay, just to be sure.
Because you say you're not a degenerate.
I take NyQuil.
Oh, you fucking...
No, I take 2 grams of glycine and 0.2 or 20 milligrams of is it 200 milligrams of the L-theanine?
Yeah, it'd probably
it's 200 milligrams.
Probably 200 milligrams. I don't think they really sell it at 20 milligrams. It's a pretty low dose.
And sometimes melatonin, but I mostly don't do melatonin. You know what?
Have you looked into the glycine thing? What's the sort of mechanism there?
I don't understand the mechanism, but I know that it gives me good dreams, and whenever I take it, I wake up like an hour early feeling as rested.
Feeling refreshed. That's a really important part of sleep to me, is how I feel waking up.
The glycine really, really works with that, and magnesium will help with it'll synergize with the L-theanine too.
Yeah, dude. I think magnesium's a good one to go to almost every night and every day, because it's responsible for so many different chemical reactions in our body, and almost everyone's deficient in it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a big part of supplementation. Is you can like waste your money and take a lot of bullshit if like you truly aren't deficient in certain things and you're buying bad quality supplements and stuff, you know. But there is areas where a lot of people are deficient where you can effectively supplement, you know, like vitamin D, fucking magnesium.
Dude, one of the hardest. Most people are deficient in potassium. I'm convinced.
Yeah, I need to look more into that one, but
it's really hard to get in the daily recommended dose per day. The actual supplements are almost negligible in the amount that you should be taking. You have to eat like 10 bananas.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about the one elven experience I have had, though.
Oh, okay.
I've not had any machine elf experiences while on DMT, but I do recall this one experience that I had while I was on magic mushrooms, and it was one of the first magic mushroom experiences that I had had. But I had taken 3.5 grams, and I was sitting on this log on the beach down there at Kentucky Lake, you know, in this isolated sort of area of the beach, just looking out the water. And these mushrooms are starting to kick in pretty hard, and I could tell just from like my visual field, like, you know what I'm saying, like looking at the water and the way the waves were crashing, and just also my overall sort of like headspace shifting too. But I remember I started to hear like this, what almost felt like this chatter and these giggles and these whispers. It felt very elven-like, this very like childlike, but like kind of like miniature person squeaking, like chatter behind me, dude. Like it legitimately, and every time I turn around, it would like go mute, go quiet, like almost like they knew I was looking at them. And then I'd turn back around, look at the water, and they would continue on with their like playing, and it felt like they'd be like rustling through the leaves and stuff, dude. There was like that going on too, like real auditory hallucinations, I should say. That was interesting because I don't have a lot of like super like auditory hallucinations. It's mostly like visual, you know, introspective, visionary type of experiences. This is very auditory, you know, and it was elven, very elven, like these chatters. There's like little elves behind you or something. But that was the one elf experience that I had. But I will say that before that experience, I had heard a lecture of Terence McKenna talking about the Machine Elves. So maybe there was some sort of like cultural, impressioning that happened there. You know what I mean? That influenced the trip, and I wonder that with the Machine Elf phenomenon, because of Terence McKenna's speaking out of it,
that it becomes more popular.
Yeah, popularizing it. You know, has that influenced a bunch of people into seeing them just because they've heard him talk about them or other people talk about them? Maybe that's a possibility. But also, I have heard of people having experiences of meeting certain entities that they didn't already have like preconceived notions of. You know what I'm saying? And understanding of, like, I had one of these.
The Indra.
Yeah, when I met Lord Indra on that DMT trip, and afterwards I was describing everything that happened on this trip, and I was describing this being and the place we went to, and you were like, dude, you're like, it sounds like you met like Lord Indra and like went to Indra's net. Like I googled that shit right away, and I was like, oh my god, I was like, I think you're right, dude. But it was like, but I didn't have that going into it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Somehow I still had this this experience where I could at least pull back enough to describe it to you to a point where you were like, that was Lord Indra, it sounds like. And when I went and looked up the sort of like depictions of Lord Indra and the lore behind him and the place that we went to during the experience, Indra's net, it was like, dude, the dots were connecting all over the fucking place. Maybe it wasn't what I experienced, but it was like, that's what it felt like. You know what I'm saying? Like felt like looking at it now, being able to make that association after the fact. It's like, you can't convince me otherwise that I didn't go to Indra's net there. So there is these people, man, who have these experiences without having the preconceived notions. And like I said earlier too, there's also the aspect of people having the anataphasia, whatever, apanphasia, people who can't see mental imagery who still report having entity contact when consuming DMT. So I don't know, man. I think it's a very like important thing, even if you do lean towards the materialist side of things, which I think we need that. I think we need to try to like do science and understand and do our best and all that. But I think it's important to remain humble in that regard, even if you are a staunch materialist or an idealist, to be like, look, maybe it's a mixture of the things. Maybe we don't know. I don't think anyone really knows. That's the thing. It's the nature of these entity sort of experiences. But I think
I'm not sure we're gonna be capable of knowing. I don't know if we have the sensory ability to like know what we don't know.
Yeah. And what I think is ultimately going to be important about these experiences, at least for now, right, is not the sort of like Nazi agenda of like pulling technology out of it, but it's like, what can we pull out of it, right? And for a lot of people, they can pull out these sort of like insightful, introspective revelations about their own lives, into their relationships with other people. People can use it as a true psychotherapeutic tool in order to enrich their lives.
I think it's a way to like reconnect with that source energy. I really think that's how that operates. Like, it's that cycling of energy whenever you go through it.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's felt like for me, man. It's like, in my subjective experiences, it's felt like that connection to some sort of like source thing or like godlike thing. You know, even if it's not, maybe it's all hallucination. I don't fucking care. I really don't, dude. I don't care, because it's like, I have fun interacting with it, and it's enriched my life. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's how I feel about most psychedelics. They really do open up my mind to like different possibilities and new neural pathways that I didn't have access to before. It makes me feel like my brain is staying neuroplastic as I age, more so than it was years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm having a lot of fun playing with that.
That's an interesting thing you just said there, man, because like, as one thing they report about a lot of these sort of like older shamans and ayahuasqueros and stuff, they seem to keep this certain level of lucidity about them as they age. And they
stay sharp as a whip.
Well, yeah, and there is physiological things that are happening to people when they take psychedelic drugs, and maybe there is some sort of benefit to a repeated exposure to those things. I'm not saying that's for everybody, of course, you know, and integrate your experiences and take your time off or whatever, but also, you know, like, all right, this dude's 90 and seems very happy and healthy, and he drinks ayahuasca every day or 4 days a week, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it's helping him. Maybe it's doing something to his brain. I don't know.
If the Jaguars do it, I mean, it's got to be good. That's all I'm saying.
They are, yeah. And they are showing to be like neuroprotective in different ways and have, you know, they're neuroplastic. And so it makes sense that they help you remain lucid, I should say.
I think I think what's most impressive about doing that is being able to navigate your mind as you age, while staying neuroplastic, while also maintaining a survivalist ego. Like, you have to maintain your personhood through many, many trips. So I think that's what's most impressive about them, is that they're able to navigate those waters freely. They really can just like dip into the insanity and then pull their ladle right back out.
Yeah, well, what's that quote? It's something about the schizophrenic and the mystic. Who said that? It was like something about the difference between a schizophrenic and a mystic swim in the same waters. It's just the mystic is swimming and like the schizophrenic is drowning, or there's something. It's something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense.
Which, you know, I don't know if I like fully agree with that. But I think there's something to that, because I imagine that some of these people who experience like a true terrifying paranoid schizophrenic mind, where it's like dark shadow beings are harassing me at all times. It's like, I don't think that's the same thing as somebody who like drinks a lot of ayahuasca.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's somebody who's already has a tenable grasp on. Tenable might not be the right word. Contentious grasp on reality.
Yeah.
Those are the people that they can't hold on to the personhood.
Yeah.
They forget that it's not just internal; it's also external. It's got both those features going on with it, and they can't interact with it in a cohesive way.
Dude, I had this experience. I was telling, I had this girl on the podcast here recently. Her name's Acid Fairy. Found her like TikTok and stuff. She's cool, but I was telling her about this experience too. But in this experience that I had, I took FXE, that fluoxetamine, and some like acid and 4-ACO.
Okay.
I took all three.
Okay.
And wow. I hit the FXE pretty hard while I like the 4-ACO and LSD was coming on.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a tryptamine and dissociative cocktail I had going here. And it was a pretty good amount of this FXE, dude. And I went to this like F hole. This FXE hole.
The F hole.
Yeah, the fluoxetamine.
God, the worst one.
Right, but I went to this hole with it, dude, where I was like in such a delirious, confused, like, because the nature of a lot of these dissociative holes already can feel very confusing and somewhat delirious to me, but something about in combination with those tryptamines, dude.
Oh man, I wonder.
It was insane, dude. And I literally had this thought in the middle of like this fucking chaos, just in the middle of my mind, and this weird sliver of the universe I was in. I had this thought of like, this is what like the bad schizophrenic people are experiencing.
Oh my god.
And I came out of the experience, dude, like crying, and I kept saying, I want to help them. I want to sit with them. And I had this like revelation, this thought where I was like, I'm going to start sitting with schizophrenic people now because I know what they experience, so I can help them. I had that thought while I was still tripping, and then obviously I came back down to earth and I was thinking about it, and I was like, I think there's probably other people who are like better prepared, like better suited to like help them than me. Just this like spun out hippie who's like, I've done a lot of drugs. I can help the crazy people. What do you need? I'll just sit with them. Pay me. We'll play bingo.
What a job that would be.
We'll play bingo. We'll get crazy out here.
Okay, so one of my high school classes took a field trip, right? It's AP Psychology. And we took a field trip to a mental hospital a few hours away. And we sat down with like all of these people with all kinds of their own things going on. And most of them were quite nice people.
Yeah.
They just had odd tics or a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I played ping pong with them. One of them was really good at ping pong.
I had a class in high school. It was the official name of it was peer tutoring, like peer tutoring. But essentially what it was is you were like a student helper in the special needs room. You know what I'm saying? With the special needs teachers and stuff, like you help them out in that class.
Yeah.
And dude, it was like one of the best experiences that I had in high school, because like you would develop like real relationships with these kids, and they had like varying levels of disability. You know what I'm saying? Like some of them had like really severe autism. Some of them were like, and this is gonna sound mean, but like legitimate like crack babies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like like shit like that, dude. But they were like they each had, like you said, their own weird tics, some of them worse than others, and their own crazy personalities, but they also had their own sort of unique things about them that you would love so much and like cherish. There's this girl, Nye, this like disabled black girl, and she was like so sassy and stuff, dude, and she would like talk, she'd talk like this, she'd be like, I know you. I know, I want to touch your hair. I'm going to touch your hair, okay? She touched your hair. Dude, she like, oh, dude, she was just so funny and like sweet like that. Yeah, no, there is, I forget how and why we went down this rabbit hole.
I'm not sure.
I started talking about my relationship
with
disabled
about
kids.
schizophrenic people.
Yes, dude, yeah. But I think I think what it is there's that like, call to help. You know what I'm saying? Be the helping hand. I think a lot of people feel that, and I think a lot of people, rightfully so, and I think it's noble, will gravitate their life sometimes towards like a noble cause like that. Whether it be some sort of like charity work or a profession that's very noble, But I think that's cool, man. I think it's cool. But one thing I don't understand fully, and I think we've talked about this, is the monk thing. No disrespect, you know what I'm saying? I think it's important we have people doing that. But like the whole monk monastery, like everything that comes with that. I think me and you were talking about this one time, and you said something that was really funny. You were like, at what point does it just become a pissing match for nobility? I was like, that's a good point. I was like, at what point is it like you took it too far to the point where it's like, no, this is no longer balanced. It's like this is actually
everything to you now.
This isn't in harmony with the universe.
Half the game is letting go of attachment, and the other half is realizing that you exist to be attached.
Right, because that's what I was like. I've gotten that feeling a lot from my experiences. Is these intense psychedelic experiences, is that a big part of this whole sort of game is like playing
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so when I see that, it's like, dude, it's like being in a Call of Duty match and spending the entire 15 minutes of like a search and destroy game, not even search and destroy, fucking domination game, just like sitting in one corner, like where you never interact with anybody, nobody ever fucks with you, you don't ever fuck with them. It's like, all right, yeah, you were safe. You didn't cause anybody harm. But it's also like, you know, I don't know, what did you pull from that experience? But also, I know you can pull a lot from that internal work. I know that's real work too. I know it's not easy or something. I'm not trying to portray it like that. And I do think that
some of them exist to karmically process the other half.
Right.
Honestly.
No, I know there's an aspect of that too, where they see it as like, kind of like I described earlier, like this field of consciousness. And they believe that by them doing that internal work, it's benefiting everybody and like the God consciousness as a whole. And I'm like, maybe, like, I mean, I guess that is once again noble as fuck that you're doing that for us. You know, it's awesome. But and this might piss some people off, everything I'm saying. It's just, but I couldn't see myself living that life, I guess you should say.
I enjoy touches of the asceticism.
I enjoy sitting with myself, like even if it's for an hour or two, like during like a Saturday, you know, whatever, like, and I try and bring that into my daily life. But for that to be my entire life, that's a whole nother game you're playing. Yeah.
I like the aspect of the fat monks where they just narrowed the walls until the monks weren't so fat.
Wait, what?
For the food, okay, so there's a monastery and the monks got fairly fat and they were like, you're monks, you're not supposed to get fat. So they narrowed the hallway, the like door arch for the food area and made it so that you had to be like fairly skinny to get in.
So it was just like they just naturally. That's crazy, dude. We should just do that with society. Just make everything really narrow, and like people who just like all of a sudden can't start getting into like establishments when they're like, we don't know what to do, man. You're just gonna have like maybe come back in a little bit. We'll like grease up the doors. I don't.
One thing some Asian companies or restaurants will do is they'll add a little gate, and depending on which set of bars you can squeeze through, you get a discount. And if you're the like skinniest, you get like a very steep discount. I bet that pisses some people off, but also in some ways it's kind of fair. It makes I think it is, especially if it's buffet style.
Buffet style, yeah, man. No, it makes sense. Like, well, have you ever seen some of these shows? I saw this one show of this guy who was like a competitive like buffet. When you say competitive, it was more like a competition with himself. Like, he would go to buffets and just throw down, dude. You know, he'd pay like, this is like back in like 2010, you know, so he'd pay like $5.99 at a Chinese buffet and eat like 20,000 calories worth of food. You know what I'm saying? And they would get to the point where they had to throw him out. And that was his whole gig. Is he would just, I'm going till they throw me out, boys. Like, let's see how long we can last this time. And he was severely overweight.
Strange consumptive lifestyle. It's like the Nikki Avocado thing.
Nikki Avocado guy you showed me. Yeah, dude. I can't believe you were such a long-time subscriber and Patreon member.
It was a real shame when he dropped out of violin playing.
Yeah, dude. And then you tried to show me his OnlyFans and stuff, and I was like, Josh, dude, this is too much, bro. The fact that you were a long-time subscriber there as well, I was like, man. But it was interesting.
Throw me under the bus.
No, but yeah, dude, that whole phenomenon is interesting because it really is a sad way to see somebody. Because you will see people who just eat themselves to death, dude. There's literally people who eat themselves into the ground. Like, have you seen some of these like 1,000-pound life shows?
Nikki Avocado.
Well, have you seen like? There's this one. I remember this one episode of like My 1,000-Pound Life or something. I was watching it in jail. It was super sad. There's this really large fella. I mean, like, he had to be like 800 pounds or something like that, dude. Like, it was ridiculous. He might have been like over 1,000 pounds. But like, they had to like use special equipment to get him up out of his house and to the hospital and all this shit. Like a special van, all that type of stuff, right?
How do you get? I don't understand the level of
lethargy,
self-oppression that it takes to like go to that level.
Well, what was sad is he lived with his mom, right? But his mom was like also, while she got involved and like I think got in contact with the show and stuff, she was also at the same time his enabler. So she'd buy him like
always an enabler.
Yeah, for every night for dinner it was like 8 pizzas or something crazy. You know, she get it for him, and so like it just never stopped, and he would just sit on this one couch like bed thing, and it just turned into a puddle, essentially. And we were watching this episode in jail, and you see the progression, and like you see like he wants to make the change. At least he says that, and he goes to this doctor, and they start on the steps. They try and get him on a diet, and he's, the whole journey. You see him like weigh it back in, see if he's losing weight. Yeah, I remember one of his weigh-ins, he ended up like not losing any weight. The doctor was like, "Dude, this is incredible." He was like, "Because you don't understand." He was like, "At your current weight, you have to be consuming a minimum." It was like, listen, a minimum like 20 or 30,000 calories a day just to maintain your weight. He was like, so all you have to do is literally just eat slightly less than that, and you'd be dropping a lot of pounds. He's like, and since I last saw you, you've like gained like 1 pound. You know what I'm saying? This dude's like a deathly obese dude.
He ate that extra pie.
You know, the episode ended essentially. It was like he lost a little bit of weight, and it sounded, maybe he's on a good track, And then kind of the episode just kind of softly ended with the music and stuff. And it was like, forget his name, but it was like, so and so ended up just passing away.
Oh my god!
Not too long after this.
Damn.
Like he just died, dude. Like his heart gave out or some shit.
Dude, did you ever see The Biggest Loser?
Yeah, dude. I remember my parents used to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That was a weird concept for a show.
What I think a lot of it comes down to, man, is honestly like people developing a lifestyle that they can and want to maintain. Because I think any sort of like fad, hardcore, I'm going to do this every day to get in shape or to stay, it's like if it's something that you're like, I don't know, maybe there is just that aspect of discipline there of like getting over that hard thing you don't want to do. I think there is an element to that too. But when you make it so rigid and so time consuming that it's like, I can't do this every day, that it's so easy to start like slacking off and or start making excuses for yourself. But if it's like, dude, I'm going to do 25 pull-ups every day, and I have a pull-up bar in my house, it's like, dude, I can't make the excuses to not do that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can do 25 pull-ups every day.
You can do crunches every single day.
Yeah, and
you have back problems.
It's not like this thing that I'm like, oh my god, dude, I don't have the time today, or I don't have the, like, truly, it would take me fucking 2 minutes to crunch out 25 pull-ups. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I lost a little over 50 pounds. Like, that's my delta there.
Yeah.
Just throughout the year by fasting.
Yeah.
I just literally said, all right, I'm not going to go running constantly to try to lose this. I'm not going to like shift up my lifestyle in any other way. I'm just going to eat significantly less.
That's the biggest hack to any of it, dude, is honestly just your diet and or fasting and or, I mean, I'd like the intermittent fasting as a lifestyle. Like, for instance, I'm fasted right now, and I think it gives me a certain level of mental clarity that I like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I appreciate for doing things. But then I also like being truly hungry when I eat too. You know what I'm saying?
Everything tastes and smells better. Just vastly better.
Yeah, I noticed as a child. I noticed early on, it's like you get preached to as a child of like, eat your breakfast. But as a kid, I was naturally never really that hungry in the mornings.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because I got older. It was like, oh yeah, it's like, actually with like the true rhythms of the human body, it's like we probably wouldn't have every morning have had like carb-rich fucking feasts. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe some nuts.
Maybe a little bit of fucking dried meat brick. You know what I'm saying? That we had in our bison sack. But like,
how would you have felt living as a Plains Indian, hunting buffaloes and living in their carcasses?
I think it'd have been gorgeous. The only aspect of the whole Indian thing that's truly terrifying is their intertribal warfare.
Ah, yeah.
Dude, they'd just run up into each other's tribe and like they'd rip your baby open in front of you and like rape your wife and make you watch and then like slit your throat and then run to the next tribe.
I mean,
like,
it's pretty classic
like
tribal behavior when it boils down to it. Everyone on Earth went through that.
Yeah, dude.
That's one of the craziest things. We're really bad about tribal warfare, but they did also have their own game style warfare. In some certain tribes instead adopted we're going to play a game about it where we try not to kill each other. We're going to just demonstrate how much better we are than them.
That's fucking nutty, dude.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust that, because, like, you'd hit the guy in the fucking nose or something by accident, and all of a sudden he gets mad, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna actually chop his head off.
Well, they actually celebrated how many wins they got without killing the other guys. And it was just kind of known.
Yeah, but when you kill the other guy, what happens? It's like, oh, sorry, playing the game. Sorry, Ricky, bitch. You know, like that. I'm sure that happened, dude.
Oh, yeah, probably. It probably did.
You did it on purpose. You hated Ricky.
But the opposing tribes would make a game instead. Sort of like how we do our football-y stuff.
Yeah.
It was just their own... I think it was like horseback with like some kind of stickball thing that you hit each other with it.
Yeah.
It was literally a game.
Okay. All right, to close this bitch out.
Okay.
If you could communicate with the Machine Elves right now, let's say they were a self-autonomous being that could manipulate time and space and all that kind of stuff, you could communicate one message to them right now, what would you communicate?
I'd ask them to open up my god powers a little bit more. Just be like, hey, open up the aperture on that.
Gay. Really? Like, you like your crown chakra?
Yeah, just be like, give me that good juice, give me the jolt.
Okay. I like that. That's pretty sick, man. Nice. You got your Fabergé egg offering to take to them?
Thank you again for the Fabergé egg. It was a wonderful gift.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Gabe and Josh here at the Launchpad. It's Machine Elf Christmas.
Definitely not sponsored by Diet Root Beer, the drink of champions.
Yeah, Diet Root Beer. What kind of man are you? Diet Root Beer. Thank you. Peace out. Much love. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Dude, we weren't recording.
I knew it.
I'm just joking.
It was a good